Our next speaker is Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratne. Professor Karunaratne is a Sri Lankan business economist, academic and author. He is a senior professor and served as the Dean at the Faculty of Management and Finance, University of Colombo. Professor Karunaratne is currently working as the coordinator of the Doctor of Business Administration program, University of Colombo. Earning a special degree in economics with a first-class honors, he was thereafter awarded 2 master's degrees in economics from the University of Colombo and Nagoya City University, Japan. Thereafter, he received his PhD in economics from the Graduate School of International Development from the Nagoya University in Japan. Professor Karunaratne was the invited professor at the Faculty of Economics, Kosei University, Tokyo. He then became the president of the Japanese Graduates Alumni Association of Sri Lanka in 2014. He currently serves as the chairman of the Institute of Policy Studies. Professor Karunaratne, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, especially for this. It is indeed honor and privilege to me to speak on quality infrastructure today, seminar organized by the Embassy of Japan, His Excellency Sugiyama, Ambassador for Japan in Sri Lanka, my dear teacher, Dr. W. Lakshman, Governor of the Central Bank, distinguished invitees. It is high time to talk on quality infrastructure. I think the Embassy of Japan has selected very timely important topic to communicate with Sri Lanka, because in Japan's International Day that we can see Japan came into internationally accepted country with high quality products, high quality infrastructure, as well as all other economic remarkable achievements, what we call as economic miracle made by Japan in East Asia. I think for my speech, sounded background was provided by His Excellency and our great teacher, Professor Lakshman, W. Lakshman, so that what we need to understand what matters for quality infrastructure. It is evident that Japan had a remarkable growth and development during the first 4 decades of post-World War. Not only achieving remarkable growth and development, but most importantly, Japan had done many innovations. That is the less highlighted part in Japanese development history, in particular when it comes to a country like Sri Lanka. There were many innovations during Japanese economic development. One is related to infrastructure development. If you compare, I think in my handout you may see, if you compare Olympic Stadium in 1964 with the Olympic Stadium in 2020, you would understand how quality infrastructure matters. Even 1964 Olympic Stadium is a very nice Olympic Stadium, and still people remember that as the icon of Olympic in the world. Not only that, during first 4 decades of Japanese development, infrastructure development became the one of the most important investment projects. In 1950s, Japan even obtained loans from the World Bank, particularly at the beginning of bullet train production, the starting that infrastructure. But the interesting thing what we can learn there, 1950s, Japan took World Bank loans. By 1970s, Japan settled all the loans. By 1990s, Japan became the world's largest donor country to the World Bank. So in that path, you can understand how a country can manage investment for economic growth. We still in Sri Lanka worried about the debt management, loan management. Even for that, Japan is the best country to learn lessons. In the line of infrastructure, we know the world's fastest train introduced in 1964, the Shinkansen, the bullet train, that has come to many Asian countries now. Japan introduced the Shinkansen project in between Malaysia and Singapore, reducing 5 hours travel time to 90 minutes, which is going to start operations in 2026. Not only that, the Japanese bullet train has come closer by us. In India, we can see in future, Indian government has agreed to take the Japanese infrastructure. Why? Because of high quality infrastructure. Even in 1950s and 60s, Japanese development planners, they put more effort to do innovation. I would say it as innovation as well as infrastructure entrepreneurship. But I recently write my articles on entrepreneurship, which also deal with the infrastructure entrepreneurship. That is what lacking in Sri Lankan concept. Because you see, when they built up 1960s, the world tallest building, Kasumiga City building, and when they built up world longest undersea tunnel, Seiken Tunnel, connecting Honshu and Hokkaido, that in fact that tunnel took 19 years construction under the sea. But that was the world longest tunnel in 1960s. So that we can see this innovative infrastructure development after certain years led to Japan to be a high quality infrastructure supply. Now in East Asia and of course other places, Japanese high quality infrastructure is demanded. Of course we know quality of infrastructure is dependent on the amount we invest. Whether we invest small amount, go for poor quality, or whether we invest large amount or use it for generation-wide innovations in entrepreneurship. That is very important. Because of this quality infrastructure, Japan could later develop innovative new type of goods as well, like world's smallest camera, even world's smallest radio. That there are many innovations in Japanese history. So why these things came? Because of the larger investment in infrastructure and commodities. We know that infrastructure is a commodity. That commodity should be produced or supplied by whom? The commodities should supply by entrepreneurs. I think in Japanese culture, Japanese history, the most important thing what we are getting is the entrepreneurial nature built up by culture, education and all other surrounding areas. So that is what we are lacking in Sri Lanka, because we know in our total population that 21 million, out of that 8 million we call labor force, out of that only 2.3% are called business owners, employers in this country. In other words, I would say that only 230,000 people are business owners in this country. This is the difference between Japanese infrastructure development and Sri Lankan infrastructure development. Of course, the quality infrastructure, it is very difficult to define what is quality. There's no one variable, one index to define what is quality. But in Sri Lanka, we feel quality of infrastructure when number of power cuts coming, when water cuts coming, when you travel on the road construction hit our day-to-day activities, we find that the infrastructure quality matters for us. So when we are moving from 4,000 per capita income to 12,000 per capita income, we cannot practice same type of low quality infrastructure development. So therefore, that what I always emphasize, that Japanese infrastructure entrepreneurship, we need to clearly understand and how they design policies for infrastructure development. I think in my last page, you can see I am proposing a format to develop infrastructure quality through the infrastructure entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. This is what the difference between Japan and Sri Lanka, because we need to make policies to get quality infrastructure. Who can prepare good policies? Good entrepreneurs can prepare good policies. Policymakers must educate, must have culture to develop entrepreneurship. So that particularly with respect to entrepreneurship, capacity and leadership, resources and services, legal and regulatory background should be set up to create infrastructure entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. So in these lines, we can understand capacity and leadership, of course, coming from entrepreneurial culture, education and skill development, representation and voice of end users, effective policy leadership and coordination, literacy on financing programs. This is one of the lacking part. The Japanese education system, Japanese culture provide financial literacy as well as other type of components of literacy today. We know that literacy does not mean only reading and writing ability in the mother tongue today. So the literacy has about 6 components, which are language literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, networking literacy, as well as technological literacy. If we don't have technological literacy, how can we understand quality infrastructure? So that I think we need to touch this infrastructure entrepreneurship, how we can transfer from Japanese development history, how they became infrastructure entrepreneurs, how they produce these goods. Infrastructure is a commodity. How can they produce, how they can export it? Now you see in next decade or next century, Japan will be a better infrastructure supplier to the world. So therefore, we can see in terms of resources and services, infrastructure focus, business development services. To what extent we can create in Sri Lanka infrastructure development focus, business development services, and networking with supply chains, other linkages, maintenance and development, access to information, marketing, technological innovations, ownership and procedures. There are many things. Even if we construct quality infrastructure, the problem in Sri Lanka mainly coming through maintenance of quality infrastructure. How do we maintain, particularly in case of appropriate pricing, tax returns, and repayments systems? How do we cope up with these things? So therefore, infrastructure entrepreneurship, from the Japanese history, we can learn many lessons. I think Sri Lanka, if we learn on that, would be a better position, because we feel that infrastructure resources, infrastructure building is not enough for Sri Lanka. Quantity as well as quality we need to discuss about. So, passing that small message, I would like to end up my speech. Thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this speech. Thank you.